This is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardenes, to use this as an educational material.
Philosopher and psychologist William James, also known as the father of the American psychology, was one of the first to postulate a theory of the self in the principle of psychology. James described two aspects of the self that he termed the I self or the knower, the act of thinking about ourselves, and the me self, the known, our knowledge of who we are. The I self reflects what people see or perceive themselves doing in the physical world. For him, this was the part of the self who knows everything about the self and considered it as a thinking self. The I self cannot be influenced by the society since it comes from us from the very beginning, and it is our true self. Whereas the me self is a more subjective and psychological phenomenon referring to individuals' reflection about themselves. The me self was defined as the empirical self and described the person's personal experience. For me, the me self has a huge impact in our life since these are the things that we learned and easily adapt based on our experience in different environments. James further distinguished three more components of the me self. This includes the material self, social self, and spiritual self. Material self refers to tangible objects or possessions we collect for ourselves. This includes cars, clothes, properties, gadgets, and etc. While the social self is, is the interaction with ourselves and other people. It is how we portray ourselves within different groups of people and situations. The spiritual self, on the other hand, reflects our values, morals, beliefs, emotions, and purpose. Some example of this is the religion we believe in, such as Christianity, Buddhism, and etc.
UTS means understanding the self. So let's talk about global versus differentiation model. When we say global model of self, it refers to a person's overall perception of value on his or her own. And example for this is our belief. According to Gestalt theory, the whole is larger than the sum of its parts. In other words, if you look at the components separately, you won't be able to tell what whole is about. And differentiated model of self, it is the ability to distinguish between emotion and thoughts, meaning person can determine if he or she overthinking or overacting. And also, these are the people use gives their feelings aside or relate the valuable change. And I have some example about differentiated model on self, which is self-consciousness and self-multiple and self-unicorn and self as creative.
Our true self are who we truly are. It is the way we think, feel, look, and act. Others can see our true self, but because we have no way of knowing how others recognize us, our true self are our self-image. The ideal self, on the other hand, is how we would like to be. It's an idealized image we have created over time based on what we have learned and experienced. For me, based on what I felt, sometimes we could not follow this kind of behavior because, like me, we have a different kind of attitude or values. Like I easily got jealous on my classmates, especially during orientation and making other activities, because they have more confidence and me better than me. That's why I don't have confidence to compete them during class time on those kind of business. But I cannot blame them because they are good at class. The only problem of this is myself, because I'm the type of student that is lazy on studying, making some activities and etc. but I really tried my best and worked hard to contend with them. And I wish that I could better and smarter like them. And this is Deck Cadet Aldrich Alliger. That could be all. Thank you.
My topic is all about real self. According to Carl Rogers, a humanistic psychologist, the personality of a human being is divided into two kinds. This is real self and ideal self. They are terms used to describe the domains of a person's personality. The real self is the actual self that reflects the true qualities, aptitude, inclination, characteristic of an individual. It is essentially who a person actually is. It is the way we think, the way we look, the way we feel, the way we communicate to others, the way we interact, the way we build relationships, friendships, and most importantly, how we behave. Real self is defined by their self-image because they have no way of knowing how others view them. It is the self that feels most true to what and who a person really is. It is the authentic self that leaves a person feeling most at ease in their own skin. For an instant, if an individual's real self-image includes honesty, a situation in which that individual does not cheat on a test or an assignment, entails pride in his own work and mental well-being. This is an example of a result of one real self aligning with the ideal self's aspect of honesty. However, if this person cheats on a test or an assignment, he or she will experience anxiety and distress. The result is that the real self does not demonstrate alignment with the ideal self. That's all. Thank you.
Ideal self in the perspective of psychology. The ideal self is the person you want to be. This person has the attributes or qualities you are either working toward or want to possess. It's who you envision yourself to be if you were exactly as you wanted. The ideal self is the person that you would like yourself to be. It is your concept of best me, who is worthy of admiration. It is an idealized image of self that the individuals have developed based on what do you have or what have you learned during those experiences of yours in your daily day-to-day life or in your previous years or even today. For example, your parents are medical doctors who are very respected or a politicians or a businessman and a businesswoman and admired so much by your community. Observing your parents or your friends or your relatives, you conclude that in order to be happy, you need to be smart and have a high paying job and of course good education. Your ideal self may be someone who excels in science subjects, in criminology subjects, in education subjects, in tourism subjects, or any subjects that you wish to, just like mathematics or just like having a problem in solving the electrical equation for you to come up with a good solution to avoid misconnections of those wires. The ideal self is which you would like to be, and over time you decide even values and be inspired and admire certain people and wish to be like them. So the closer your ideal self to yourself, real self, the more your ideal self came true. Why? Because your ideal self is the idealized version of yourself. You are not contented to your real life self. So you created an ideal self out of what you have learned from your life and experience, and being your ideal self, you need patience and hard work because there are many challenges that you need to overcome And lastly, don't act like your ideal self and be yourself and create an opportunity to be that ideal person.
Multiple versus unified self. The multiple or unified self explains us that we have our multiple side of ourself. We are acting different depending on a setting. Unified self means of referring to the composite persona or the self that contains all of the other personas that exist within a person's interaction style. What those the self consist of. So there are three domains: experiential self, private self, public self, or persona. Experiential self, this is the theater of consciousness and the first person felt experience of being. This tied very closely to memory. Private self, the portion of your being that verbally narrates what is happening and tries to make sense of what's going on. This portion of yourself is called the autobiography self. Public self or persona. The public image that you attempt to pro- project to others, which in turn interact with how people actually see you. For example, we talk differently in front of our parents and front of our friends. Sometimes we are quiet and humble if we are talking to our parents, but when we are talking to our friends, we are talkative and exchanging crazy praises like me.
Hi everyone, my name is Axeli Maturan and I will explain about multiple selves. Multiple selves refers to the different ways that individuals or interact with the different situations and circumstances in our own lives. There are many kinds of multiple self, just like, for example, as a student, as a friend, or as a son. Think about yourself as a breadwinner in your family. You've ever felt exhausted trying to live up to the role as a good son, the brother who steps in to save the day, the guy who can be relied on at work, that feeling that the person you are inhabiting is different from who you really are. Try to change your character because if you force all those disparate roles into one cohesive identity, there is possible na ma-stress ka or mamatay ka. That's why you don't need to play the same character for your entire life, but learn to manage them properly by seamlessly transitioning from one role to another. That's all.
Hi, I'm Decadent Queenie Tuchada. I'm going to tackle about true self and false self. So, what is the difference between the two? True self is the genuine version of us or of ourselves. It is the time when we are doing the things we love and just living our lives as we really are. The best example of being our true selves was when we were babies. It is only the time that we are pure, or shall we say, the truest us. It's because the things we do are to cry, laugh, and react in a way that is wholly authentic to our needs. We're simply being ourselves. However, as the time goes by, our true selves are commonly shown when we are together with people whom we trust and are comfortable with, and with whom we feel secure in being just ourselves without having the feeling that we are not enough. The false self, on the other hand, is a side of us that has changed its behavior, repressed feelings, and pushed needs aside in order to survive. There are two types of false self: the healthy false self and the unhealthy false self. As Dr. Winnicott contends, people develop a false self to protect their inner, more vulnerable true self. Therefore, this describes a healthy false self. For example, we tend to be our false selves when we are with or socializing with strangers or with people whom we have just met. It is healthy since we have shown our false selves to protect our vulnerable selves, keeping them safe until we are around with people whom we know we can trust, which prevents ourselves from a potential attack from others who might not treat our feelings with acceptance. In contrary, due to experience, influence, and the rising standard of society, we develop unhealthy false self. We tend to show more of our false self because most of us feel the urge to change ourselves in order to comply and satisfy other people, society, and most especially ourselves, so that we can say that we do good. But are we really doing well? Do we feel fulfilled? In contrary, due to experience, influence, and the rising standard of society, we develop unhealthy false self. We tend to show more of our false self because most of us feel the urge to change ourselves in order to comply and satisfy other people, society, and most especially ourselves, so that we can say that we do good. But are we really doing well? Do we feel fulfilled? Certainly not, but most of us continue doing it. Why? Due to the fact that we feel unsatisfied with our true selves, our abilities. People are being true false self in order to satisfy the expectations of others, to be accepted, to not feel left behind, and to protect their egos. We are making another version of ourselves because we are conscious of what other people would view or say about us.
So my topic is all about true versus fake self. In the 1960s, an English pediatrician, Donald Winnicott, introduced his concept of false self and true self, which focuses more on children, parents, and parental provision, as well as the consequences of the relationship between the child and the parents. According to Winnicott, the true self is described as someone who is whole and authentic, while the false self is a defensive facade in order to adapt for survival in society, and it contains the vulnerable true self. So a true self, it is most described as our real feelings, needs, thoughts, and desires. And also, according to Winnicott, the function of the false self is to hide and protect the true self. So why do we need to hide our true self? Like for example, we people are always good at hiding our own problems because we are scared to share our problems because they may think that we are just being dramatic, or because we're just afraid that people will judge us. Or sometimes we don't want to be misinterpreted by other people. According also to Winnicott, people tend to display a false self to impress others. There must be a time wherein we pretend to be someone else in order to be included in that particular group. We create a false self in order to hide our true self. Or in some cases, we are just being honest or true to ourselves, to the person we truly trust. So, how do we reconnect with our true selves? Number one, make sense of your past. Number two, identify and find out what you're good at and not good at. Number three, find what you're passionate about. Number four, access your relationships. And the last one is seek professional help. Of course, it's really important to seek professionals in order to help us and to cope up in this kind of situation.
Good day, everyone. You can call me Ray, and I'm going to tackle one of the four perspectives of the agentic in the self as proactive and agentic, and a short background history. Once again, there are four known perspectives of agentic, and those are forethought, self-reactiveness, self-reflectiveness, and proactive. Proactivity or proactive behavior refers to self-initiated behavior that endeavors to solve a problem before it has occurred. Proactive behavior involves acting in advance of a future situation rather than reacting. It refers to taking control of a situation and making early changes rather than adjusting to a situation or waiting for something to happen. For example, anticipate problems before they occur. If you can identify potential issues early on, you'll be in a better position to prevent them from happening. Proactive people don't wait around things they want. They make a conscious effort to take the right set of actions and get what they want. They have the right mindset, plan ahead, and take initiative. That's why they are often the highest achievers. You can be one of those people too. It's not magical superpowers only the chosen ones get. It, it can be learned and trained like you would train a muscle. So who is physiologist behind this study? So he is Albert Bandura. Albert Bandura is a Canadian-born American psychologist and originator of social cognitive theory, and who is probably best known for his modeling study on aggression referred to as the Bobodal experiment, which demonstrated that children can learn behaviors through the observation of adults. Thank you for listening, everyone, and have a great day.
Good day, everyone. You can call me Don. What we are going to tackle today is agentic in self as proactive and agentic. So, what is the word agentic? It is described as an individual's power to control their own goals, actions, and their destiny. It stems from the word agency, which Webster's dictionary defines as the capacity, condition, or state of acting or of exerting power. There are four perspectives of agentic. The first one is forethought. Next is self-reactiveness. After self-reactiveness, we have self-reflectiveness. And finally, we have proactive self. Forethought is a careful consideration of what will be necessary or may happen in the future. For example, Mr. Oy had the forethought to cancel the ticket for his flight. Self-reflectiveness, once an individual has a plan and intention, he or she needs to motivate and regulate their own behavior to achieve their goals. For example, Miss Alihaga forethought to drive the car after partying with her friends. So, as much as possible, she should not drink too much to avoid being drunk. Self-reflectiveness. So, self-reflection is the ability to witness and evaluate our own cognitive, emotional, and behavioral processes. For example, Miss Alihaga failed her plan and got drunk, and she found out that sleeping on the streets was not easy. So, she swore to never be drunk again when she decides to drive the car. That is all, and thank you for listening.